Hey, how's it going, everyone? So, I'm recording this video to answer a relatively common question that just got asked again today by one of my Monkeypod members, Jan. So, Jan, you may have already solved this, and I think I gave you some instructions that probably you were able to work with, but I wanted to create a video resource because it's just a matter of time until this comes up again. So, here's the scenario. Let's say you're selling a product, but you don't want to necessarily make people pay for the entire product up front. So the natural instinct is to reach for a payment plan. But a payment plan isn't all that flexible. A payment plan only allows you to break up the order total into equal payments, 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever, but equal payments. And sometimes you want to collect a portion, like a larger portion of that order up front, like maybe collecting a deposit and then just billing the remainder in equal installments. So here's how I would recommend handling that. I should also call out that I'm going to do this using products and payment plans, not using a subscription. And there's a reason for that. It's because subscriptions and orders report differently on your different reports and searches. Infusionsoft treats those very differently. So even though you could use a subscription and your prospects or your customers wouldn't necessarily notice a difference, internally, it could cause a little confusion for your reporting. So we're going to set up two products. The first of which is our deposit. So let's go ahead and set up our deposit. And it'll take me 3 or 4 tries to spell that word. And then we'll set the price point for that to, let's say, $1,000. So I want to have $1,000 deposit. So this is the deposit. And then I'm going to create a second product. So the second one is going to be called Remainder. And you can call it, whatever you want, but this is what's going to be billed to them over time. So we'll call this Remainder, and I'll set this one to be $1,500. Okay. So the goal here is to create a one-time payment of $1,000 and then 3 subsequent payments of $500 each. So that somebody pays $1,000 today, and then next month $500, the month after that $500, and a month after that $500, totaling to $2,500. Okay, so now I've got my 2 products created. The next thing we're going to do is set up a payment plan. So we are going to break that $1,500 payment into 3 payments. So let's go ahead and say Remainder 3 pay. And there's a key to this that I'm going to show you in just a second. You can add a description if you want. You certainly don't need to. I wouldn't add a finance charge because I just want the $500 for each payment. I don't need there to be any additional financing. Number of payments is going to be 3 for this one. Days between payments, 30 is fine. You can delay days until start. I'm going to leave that as 0 for now, and I'll address that in just a moment. And then you select your merchant account. There's a few other settings here for auto charge and whether or not you want to override your merchant account. And once you click save, then you have the ability to add criteria. So I'm going to choose date range criteria. And this is important. I'm going to set this up so that it's choosing a date range in the past. Okay. So I can just, press E a couple times and dial that back a few years, right? So if it's between 2015, 2016, those are both in the past. That's when this becomes available. The reason I want a date range in the past is because I don't want this payment plan to show up on any of my order forms or any of my shopping cart purchases. I just want to access it internally. I don't want it available or visible publicly for people making purchases. Okay. So now we're going to go and create the order form where somebody can buy that initial first payment. So this is the deposit order form, and the only product we're going to add here is the deposit that we just created. So deposit, add product. You can change the price point or the label if you needed to. I'm going to fix the quantity at 1 and then click save. So now I've got my order form, right? And obviously this link is what they would use to check out. And you can see it's just $1,000. This is the deposit. One recommendation I have is adding a little bit of custom code to this, not to necessarily make it overly complex or encourage you or require you to do coding, but just to make it really clear for the customer The remainder of $1,500 will be billed over the next 3 months, right? So that way, anybody who is purchasing, they're going to see a very clear message. The remainder of this $1,500 will be billed over the next 3 months. You could even do, I'm going to center that. But you could make it, I'm not an HTML coder by any means, but you could make that stand out. You could, change the color of that text. You could make it bright red or put a box around it, what have you. But the goal is to set the right expectation so that if somebody is checking out, they know, all right, cool, $1,000 today, and then the remainder of $1,500 will be billed over the next 3 months, okay? So now that we've done that, the next thing we need to do is set up an action set. The goal here is to trigger this action set 30 days after the purchase, and then the action set is actually what's going to create the subsequent order for the remainder. So let's create an action set, and this one will be create an order, and I'll just call this remainder order. And instead of choosing from this selection here, what I usually do is just click Save This Action, which allows you to choose your product. So remainder, there we go, add. So that adds that, and you can edit it here if you need to modify any of those things, and then choose a payment plan ID. So that's where my remainder 3Pay comes in. The reason that's so important is because if you don't select a payment plan, it's not going to know at what schedule to bill this. So remainder 3Pay tells Infusionsoft, bill this today, 30 days from now, and 30 days from there. There's a few other settings down here if you want to email the invoice to the customer, if you want to make sure that this is auto charging, if you want to add sales tax, etc. You can also build in some certain rules where it doesn't run if they've already bought this or something like that. And then you can add free trial days if you want to delay that for your subscriptions specifically. Now, I didn't add delay for first payment. If you recall, when I was setting up the payment plan, I had an option to delay that, and I chose not to. So that means the minute that this action set is run, it's going to start an attempt to bill the credit card on file. So now let's go add a campaign. And most of you are probably familiar with campaigns, but this will be our deposit and remainder campaign. And then this is going to initiate with a purchase. So when somebody buys the deposit, that's what triggers this campaign. So I'll use a purchase goal, specific product purchase, and I will choose deposit. And then in there, we will trigger a sequence. So this will be delay and charge remainder, right? And so there will be a 30-day delay here. So let's change this to 30 days or 1 month, whatever you think is appropriate. Any day at, 1 a.m. on the contacts time zone, and then we will choose our action set here, and this will be run remainder on credit card, right? So this one, all I need to do is select the action set we just created for remainder order. So what's going to happen now is when somebody purchases, it's going to trigger this, right? They've paid $1,000, and then it'll immediately begin this 30-day delay, and then after 30 days, it'll attempt to process the action set, which we just created, which will generate an order using the remainder product, and it'll bill the first third of that, which would be $500. And then, the action set and the order will, once that has run, the payment plan will attempt to process the second and third payment over the subsequent months. So we can go ahead and publish this, and that is pretty much all you need in order to collect a deposit and then have the follow-up payments of an unequal or less than equal or different amounts is the easiest way to say that, process over the next few months. Now, what this does not do is trigger any automation for the subsequent purchase. So if there's, access that they need or a thank you message, or if you needed to trigger a campaign, obviously you would need to build that separately. But if all you want is the ability to collect an order with a deposit up front and then equal payments later on, well, this should handle that for you. Hope this helps. Take care.